My name is Sophia Carter, and I want to share with you the story of how I went from being the only woman in every room to building a tech company that's now worth over $100 million. This isn't just about breaking barriers in technology, it's about refusing to accept limitations that others try to place on you and turning skepticism into your greatest competitive advantage. Growing up in Portland, Oregon, I was always drawn to technology in a way that seemed unusual for girls in the 1990s. While my friends were interested in fashion and pop music, I was fascinated by computers, programming, and figuring out how things worked. My father, an electrical engineer, encouraged my curiosity by bringing home old computer parts for me to tinker with. By middle school, I was spending most of my free time in the computer lab, learning programming languages and building simple websites. I was almost always the only girl in these spaces, but I didn't think much of it at the time. I just assumed that other girls would eventually catch up to my interest in technology. High school made the gender divide more obvious. In my advanced placement computer science class, I was one of only 3 girls out of 30 students. When we worked on group projects, my male classmates would often assign me documentation tasks while they handled the actual coding, assuming I wasn't capable of the technical work. This pattern continued in college at Stanford, where I majored in computer science. Despite consistently earning top grades, I noticed that professors and male students would often overlook my contributions in group discussions or dismiss my ideas until a male classmate repeated the same suggestion. The most frustrating part wasn't the overt discrimination, it was the subtle, constant undermining that made me question my own abilities. I started to wonder if maybe I really wasn't as technically skilled as my male peers. Despite evidence to the contrary, after graduation, I landed a software engineering position at a well-known tech company in Silicon Valley. I was excited to finally be in a professional environment where merit would supposedly matter more than gender. I quickly discovered how naive that assumption was. In my first team meeting, my manager introduced me as our new junior developer, even though I had been hired at the same level as 3 male colleagues who started the same week. When I corrected him, he brushed it off as a misunderstanding. But the damage was done. My teammates already saw me as less qualified. During code reviews, my work was scrutinized more heavily than my male colleagues. When I made suggestions for improving our software architecture, they were often ignored until a senior male engineer proposed the same ideas weeks later. I watched as men with similar or even lesser qualifications were promoted past me. The breaking point came during a project where I had designed and implemented a critical algorithm that significantly improved our software's performance. During the presentation to senior leadership, my project manager presented my work as a team effort and barely mentioned my role in developing the solution. After that meeting, I realized that playing by the existing rules would never lead to fair recognition or advancement. I needed to create my own opportunities rather than waiting for others to recognize my value. Frustrated with the limitations of corporate life, I started working on a side project in my spare time. I had noticed that small businesses struggled with inventory management, often using outdated systems or complicated spreadsheets that led to costly mistakes. I began developing a cloud-based inventory management platform specifically designed for small retail businesses. The software would be intuitive enough for non-technical users but powerful enough to handle complex inventory scenarios across multiple locations. Working nights and weekends for 8 months, I built the first version of what would eventually become Retail Flow. I tested it with a few local business owners who had agreed to try the beta version in exchange for feedback and free access to the software. The response was overwhelmingly positive. Business owners loved how easy it was to use compared to existing solutions, and they reported significant improvements in inventory, accuracy, and cost savings. More importantly, they were willing to pay for the software once the trial period ended. I realized I had stumbled onto a real market opportunity. Small businesses represented a huge underserved market that larger software companies ignored because the deals weren't big enough to be profitable for them. But if I could build a solution that worked for thousands of small businesses, the revenue could be substantial. After a year of development and successful beta testing, I made the terrifying decision to quit my corporate job and focus on Retail Flow full-time. My manager's response was predictably dismissive. "Starting a tech company is really hard, Sophia. Maybe you should consider a product management role instead." His condescension only reinforced my decision to leave. I had $50,000 in savings and a product that customers were already paying for. More importantly, I had a vision for building a company culture that would value talent and contributions, regardless of gender. The first year, as a solo entrepreneur, was incredibly challenging. I was handling everything myself: development, sales, marketing, customer support, and business operations. I worked 80-hour weeks from my one-bedroom apartment, often coding until 3 a.m. and then handling customer support calls first thing in the morning. But I was also learning at an unprecedented rate. Without corporate bureaucracy slowing me down, I could implement new features based on customer feedback within days instead of months. I was building direct relationships with my customers and getting immediate validation that I was solving real problems. Within 6 months of launching, Retail Flow had 200 paying customers and was generating $40,000 in monthly recurring revenue. I hired my first employee, a talented female developer who had also been frustrated with the gender dynamics at larger tech companies. As Retail Flow grew, I made intentional decisions about company culture that differentiated us from typical Silicon Valley startups. I prioritized hiring based on talent and cultural fit rather than traditional pedigree, which led to a more diverse team than most tech companies. I also implemented policies that supported work-life balance, recognizing that many talented people, particularly women, had been driven away from tech by cultures that demanded 100-hour workweeks and constant availability. By our second year, we had grown to 15 employees and were serving over 1,000 small businesses across the United States. Our customer retention rate was over 95%, and we were consistently rated as the easiest inventory management software to use in our market category. But growth also brought new challenges. As we started seeking larger rounds of funding to accelerate expansion, I encountered the venture capital world's gender bias firsthand. Fundraising, facing the boys' club. My first pitch meeting with a prominent VC firm, the partner spent more time asking about my technical background and whether I really understood software development than discussing our business metrics or growth strategy. No male founder with a computer science degree from Stanford and a successful product would have faced similar questioning. Another investor asked if I had considered bringing on a more experienced CEO to lead the company through its next growth phase. When I asked what specific experience I was lacking, he couldn't provide a concrete answer beyond suggesting that enterprise sales required a different kind of leadership. The most frustrating meetings were with investors who claimed to be diversity-focused but still asked questions that revealed their underlying bias. One asked how I planned to balance running a company with family obligations, a question I'm certain they never asked male founders. After 3 months of pitching, I had received multiple term sheets, but all with valuations significantly lower than comparable companies led by male founders. I realized that raising venture capital would require me to give up more equity than necessary, simply because investors undervalued female-led companies. Rather than accept unfavorable venture capital terms, I decided to explore alternative funding options. I discovered revenue-based financing, where investors provide capital in exchange for a percentage of future revenue rather than equity ownership. This approach appealed to several investors who were impressed with our consistent revenue growth and strong unit economics. Within 2 months, I secured $2 million in revenue-based financing at terms that were much more favorable than the VC offers I had received. The funding allowed us to accelerate hiring and marketing without giving up significant equity or board control. More importantly, it proved that there were paths to growth that didn't require conforming to traditional venture capital expectations. With proper funding, Retail Flow experienced rapid growth. We expanded our product offerings to include analytics, forecasting, and integration with popular e-commerce platforms. Our customer base grew to over 5,000 businesses, and annual recurring revenue reached $8 million. Industry recognition followed. I was invited to speak at major conferences about entrepreneurship and product development. Retail Flow won several awards for innovation and customer satisfaction. Tech publications started featuring our company as an example of successful bootstrapped growth. But the recognition that meant the most came from other women in tech who reached out to share how seeing a female-founded company succeed had inspired them to pursue their own entrepreneurial ambitions. Today, 5 years after leaving my corporate job, Retail Flow serves over 15,000 small businesses and generates $25 million in annual recurring revenue. We employ 75 people across 3 offices, with women representing 45% of our technical staff and 60% of our leadership team. More importantly, we've maintained the company culture that prioritized talent and results over politics and posturing. Our employee satisfaction scores consistently rank in the top 10% of tech companies, and our turnover rate is less than half the industry average. We've also proven that building a sustainable, profitable business can be more valuable than pursuing rapid growth at any cost. Rather than burning through venture capital, we've grown profitably while maintaining control over our company's direction and values. My journey from overlooked engineer to successful CEO taught me several crucial lessons that I share with other women entering or advancing in technology. Don't wait for permission or recognition. I spent years waiting for corporate managers to notice my contributions and promote me fairly. Real change came when I stopped waiting for others to validate my worth and started building something that demonstrated my capabilities. Your different perspective is an advantage, not a liability. The fact that I thought differently about user experience and business problems because of my background as a woman actually helped me identify market opportunities that others missed. Build your own network. Traditional old boys club networks weren't accessible to me, so I had to create my own connections with customers, employees, and advisors who valued results over relationships. Use skepticism as motivation. Every time someone questioned my technical abilities or leadership potential, it motivated me to work harder and achieve more. I turned their doubt into my competitive fuel. Focus on metrics that matter. When facing bias in fundraising or business development, I learned to lead with concrete numbers, revenue growth, customer retention, profitability that were harder to dismiss than subjective opinions about my qualifications. Success has given me the platform and resources to help other women navigate similar challenges in technology and entrepreneurship. I regularly mentor female founders, speak at conferences about women in tech, and serve on the advisory board of organizations that support underrepresented entrepreneurs. Retail Flow also partners with coding bootcamps and university programs that focus on increasing diversity in technology. We offer internships, mentorship, and job opportunities specifically designed to help women and minorities break into tech careers. I've learned that individual success isn't enough. Real change requires systematic efforts to create more opportunities and remove barriers for the next generation of women in technology. If you're a woman in tech who feels overlooked, underestimated, or discouraged by the challenges you're facing, I want you to know that your frustrations are valid and your potential is unlimited. The barriers are real. I won't pretend that working twice as hard to get half the recognition is fair or acceptable, but I also know that those barriers are not insurmountable, and that your unique perspective and determination can become your greatest competitive advantages. Don't let anyone convince you that you need to change who you are to succeed in technology. The industry needs more diverse voices, different perspectives, and leaders who prioritize building inclusive, sustainable businesses over conforming to traditional Silicon Valley stereotypes. Your ideas matter. Your technical skills are valuable. Your leadership potential is real. The world needs the solutions you can create and the companies you can build. Start building something that matters to you, even if it's just a side project. Find customers who value what you create. Measure your success by the problems you solve and the impact you make, not by other people's opinions about your qualifications. Most importantly, remember that every barrier you break makes the path easier for the women who come after you. Your success creates opportunities for others and helps change an industry that desperately needs more diverse leadership. The tech world told me that women couldn't lead successful technology companies. I proved them wrong, and so can you. We want to hear your story. Are you a woman who has overcome barriers in male-dominated industries? Have you built a successful business despite facing gender discrimination? Have you broken through glass ceilings in tech, finance, or other challenging fields? We'd love to feature your journey. How to share your story. Tell us about the barriers you faced and how you overcame them. Share what strategies worked for building credibility in your industry. Describe how you turned skepticism into motivation for success. Let us know what advice you'd give to other women facing similar challenges. Your breakthrough story could inspire the next generation of female leaders and entrepreneurs. Don't forget to subscribe for more inspiring stories of people who refused to accept limitations and built extraordinary success on their own terms.